There's Pagenaud again inside of power for second. He'll get that in turn one. Matthias Lace, the rookie, with a bid for a spot that he gets down into the corner.
Just think about what it's like for Matthias Lace. Yes, he's raced here before. He's won the Freedom 100, but when you get to an Indy car, he says it's so much faster. The short chutes don't even seem like straightaways. Great leadership from the team on the ABC team, but also having a teammate like Tony Kanaan in your stable. He said, I have learned so much from Tony. It seems like I've cut 2 years off my rookie stripes.
That is absolutely true, but you cannot teach somebody what it's going to feel like when you do those first 2 or 3 laps at the start of Indy 500. There is so much turbulence that you're just trying to get around the track without making any mistakes. Just about now, everybody is starting to settle in. They know what their car is feeling like, and they're starting to get used to finding a rhythm that will be with them throughout the rest of the race.
Helio Castroneves driving the 3 for Team Penske, sitting in 8th position, looking for that 4th 500 victory. '23 is Charlie Kimball picking up a spot. Kimball moving up to the 17th position. Here's what a lot of the drivers were saying after the carb day practice when it was hot out, and really the first time they've gotten to run this 2018 chassis style in the hot temperatures. They said it's going to be an opportunistic race. It's going to be a very technical race, a tactical race. They said on the start, when you got fresh tires, you're going to have to go as hard as you can. You're going to have to try and get as many positions as you can, because as you get more laps on the tires and as the heat builds through the day, the handling is going to be difficult to manage, and you might have to just dial the fuel back and ride for a little bit and preserve track position and save some things.
Actually, when you say save some things, you talk about dialing the fuel back. They have a knob on their steering wheel that they can trim the fuel back, almost like you would do it on an airplane. So instead of running 100% fuel, they can slot back to maybe 98, 95% and get better fuel mileage, maybe make an extra lap on every run that they are out there on the racetrack. But the limiting factor, because of the heat, as you mentioned, Alan, right now, all the drivers are on uncharted territory because the tire wear, and they think that the tires might start to go off somewhere around lap 15 or 20, and you can go 30, maybe 32 on a fuel load.
It's not that they're going to wear through the tires, but they're going to give up enough grip that it's going to make it really tricky in these conditions. So we're underway with a clean start to the Indy 500. The last couple of years, we've run almost a quarter of the race before we've gotten the first yellow. We'll see if that's what happens today. Green start to the Indianapolis 500. Ed Carpenter has led every lap from pole position. Simon Pagenaud, Will Power, Joseph Newgarden, Sebastian Bourdais are the top 5. Talked about some of the pit tactics and the tactical race we might see today. Jan Beekes can add more on that.
Yes, and if you look at the pit windows as far as when you would stop on track, on the left-hand side, you could see you can make one less pit stop if you saved a little bit of fuel like Scott Goodyear was talking about. However, if you want to have your strategy for the day to have fresh Firestones throughout the race, you could stop earlier. You have one more stop in your future, but why are we looking at this now? Well, it may only be lap 12 at the moment, but we'll see these cars and teams play their hand. If they stop between 20 and 30, we know they're looking after tires. If they stop after that, up to lap 33, even 34, we know they're on a fuel stave strategy. I think today we're going to see a little of each. Doc?
Hey guys, Ed Carpenter knows that if the car stays up front, that's where the clean air is. The car handles best. Here's the downside. They told him, being up front, you're going to burn a lot of extra fuel, probably lose us a lap, maybe 2 laps, having to pit shorter than everyone else. They have just told Ed Carpenter the guys behind him are probably being really smart and saving some fuel. So now you got to start thinking about that, Ed. We're up front. We want to stay there for clean air, but you got to really watch the fuel. You may start trimming it back.
Hey, think about it. The object is to cover the 500 miles in the shortest amount of time. The more time you're sitting still getting refueled, that's adding to the equation. These engineers and strategists on the timing stands are going to have their work cut out for them today.
We only really know how much more fuel Ed Carpenter is running after this first stop, because I don't think the cars are close enough in the tow to have that big of a gain, because Pagenaud is really not closing the gap as they would have done in the past. Was really going to be tricky. As for tire degradation, we don't see any lack of performance at all. They seem to just keeping the same pace. Ed is definitely in control of this race right now. Because you would have thought that Pagenaud would have tried to get closer to see how his car would handle, and he hasn't.
So looking at some people that have moved up and dropped back off the start, Danica Patrick has slipped back 5 positions from her grid spot of 7th. She's back in 12th, Rick.
Yeah, and she's already come on the radio and talked about the fact that the car is getting understeer. In fact, we're hearing that from a lot of the drivers who are radioing back to their team saying that they're getting understeer. And they've already talked about the fact that in this next pit stop, they're potentially looking at doing a wing adjustment on the front end of the car to try to counteract that. So understeer, it's not steering hard enough when you go into the turn. Imagine you're on ice and you're turning that left turn, and instead you're skating out towards the wall. That's not what a driver wants.
Yeah, Rick, and we're also seeing on the telemetry and listening as we're on board with Danica how much she had to lift off the throttle to go through the corner in turns 3 and 4. Let's see it again.
That's all the way off. That's not lifting. That's taking her foot off the throttle. Now watch how much steering movement she has.
That means it's a very nervous race car anytime you're jostling with the steering wheel like that. But let's not forget also we had rain in the overnight, washed some of the rubber off the racetrack. This racetrack is different than the last time they drove on the final practice on Friday.
What really shocks me about her lifting is she has clean air in front of her. There aren't any cars in front of her, so she doesn't have to go through turbulent air. If she gets up somebody else's gearbox, it'll be much worse.
Zach Veach and Max Chilton have slipped back 6 and 7 spots respectively in these opening laps. Now here's the big mover in the early laps. This is Graham Rahal. Rahal, who started all the way back in 30th position. He's picked up 7 spots now, and he's running in 23rd. Watch him at the start of the race here.
Getting a draft with 2 cars in front, wisely chooses the high line. Now he's a spotter. You can hear that spotter on his radio, standing right up there on the right-hand side in turn 3, high above, can see exactly what's going on. Radios to the drivers to tell them whether they are clear and lets them know where the safe portion is on the racetrack. Rick?